2, 1. There we go. Hey, everybody. How are you? I hit all the buttons at once. You know how it goes, right? It's the way it works sometimes. So, listen. I seem to have gone a little long last night. That's what she said. Anyways, I seem to have gotten off on a tangent, but I want to come to you with something a little bit different here. I'm going to start doing this thing called the energy report. And what I want to do with this is I want to be able to talk to you about the energy of the day and what it is that's kind of coming down the pipe. In a lot of ways, it's the energy of things. It's the it's the why. It's the part that makes me unique in the analysis. I genuinely think that there's a lot of, and by the way, thanks so much for all of the patience with, geez Louise, I was on the wrong channel. I was all that other stuff, but we cleaned that up. A couple of news and notes tomorrow night. I'm going to be working with the Psychic Sleuth. It's kind of a new thing for me. And it's going to be a super cool thing. This is going to be one of those things that, like, when we get there, we're going to be doing a, I've got a lot of changes coming up here in the next year. And some of those changes are going to be how I kind of present myself here on the channel. And one of the things that I've kind of recognized is that there really is a need. And I've got a poll out there right now for people to kind of comment on. There's been a lot of these news outlets, the David Pakmans, the Brian Taylor Cohen, Bulworth, they've seemed to have kind of, and Brian Taylor Cohen has kind of changed his tune a little bit. Like he's not letting Trump off the hook, but he's kind of like, he's still doing the same thing he's always done, which is I'm, presenting to you, basically how much of a tool Trump is. And that's cool. I don't know. He kind of, how do I want to say it? I think he's kind of getting stale even to his own audiences so far. And that's the part that I'm kind of like, we've got to be able to kind of do this. What if there was a YouTube channel that would be able to kind of keep our presence? Oh, yeah. Wow. Look at that. Whoa! I just wanted to add it up in the upper right-hand corner for crying out loud. What if there was a channel that kind of came to you and gave you like these astrological things and worked with tarot and worked with people that are kind of on the esoteric side of things and worked with your energy and gave you heads up on this stuff? Because I think we're really kind of craving knowledge because things aren't adding up. We're seeking validation. And by the way, if you're highly intuitive, you are absolutely 100%. You're intuitive and you're 100% know something's up. And by the way, let's be honest. You've known something was up for a while and it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is a distraction, quite frankly, to a lot of these things, right? The astrological stuff, and by the way, this is why I wanted to kind of start doing this energy report, because I want people to kind of get used to this kind of way of thinking. And by the way, hey, Brenda, how are you? Yeah, Rachel, I agree with you. Melissa, good to see you. Yeah, definitely. Mercury retrograde is ending next week. A lot of technical stuff. I mean, my screw up last night was like monumental. Carol, good to see you. Phoenix, my gosh, you guys are coming in. Music Talk was fun. It sure was. And by the way, somebody posted that Chicago's playing at a Summerfest. Where? You guys got to remember, this is an international channel. Where is Chicago playing? I'd love to come check them out. Where? Lady Ann, good to see you. You button smashed. I kind of did. By the way, speaking of which, it is a statistic that 20% of everybody that visits my channel actually likes and subscribes. You don't have to join. If you want to join, you can. But please do me a solid right now and just hit the subscribe button. Click on the bell for notifications, all that other good stuff. Janet, good to see you. Melanie, excellent. Elizabeth, good to see you back here as well. Some new Smyrna love over there. Jupiter. Judy, good to see you too. Yeah, I'm seeing you guys get in here. Tart and Spite. Tart and Spice. Wicked piss of weather here, Brandon. Yeah, in Boston. Yeah, I got the wind going right up my chutes. And if you don't understand what I just said, you're good. Debbie, I love to connect with you too. Energetically, Kate, love to see you. Chicago comes to Vegas. Oh, is that what it is? Donna, good to see you. I got your message. We've got to kind of connect here. Chris, good to see you. It was great to see you and Patty the other day. So this is real talk, right? Killing people are bad. Killing people is bad, right? We get that out of the way. Anytime you kill another person, it's not good. It's not actually a solution. It is an equal measure of saying, I'm taking my ball and going home. I have no further argument. And it comes of two things. Either one, the person who is making the argument that does the killing basically says, I have run out of ammo, so I will throw my gun at you. And they just kind of throw themselves at it, right? Oh, we're going to talk about Santa. Don't you worry, guys. I know you like it. The other option is when the other side just won't even listen to it. And this is the energy report. The energy report is going to be a quasi geopolitical view of the world as taken through astrology. And it will be a very developed show. It will have guests. It will have people that are connected to it. It will also still be one of many things that I end up doing on this channel. As this channel evolves and more people are brought on board, I'm kind of all in. Not in the way the Dallas Cowboys are. Let's be honest, they stink. But it is a way that I think we're watching these new organizations, these news organizations that were kind of this beacon of truth-seeking space, eventually becomes corrupt. And I'm going to explain this through the eyes of Joe Rogan. People have asked me like what I think of Joe Rogan. And I actually hold him in high regard for a whole host of reasons. Because I think he's a real person. And I think that he created a format that said, shit, you know what? I got 3 hours to kill. Let's just talk about whatever it is you're doing. I'm going to hire crew. I'm going to do this. I mean, a Spotify thing is out of this world. But he's judicious in the standpoint of he was giving voices to people like Bob Lazar. He was giving voice to engineers that basically said the science doesn't match the explanation of 9/11. The government byline that you were told, the narrative that you were told, doesn't match what all of us experience. Like he was giving voice to a lot of countercultural dynamics. To have Donald Trump on your podcast, it makes perfect sense because once again, it's one of the shitty ways he likes to break rules. He did not have to have equal measure in any media outlet because podcasts aren't recognized as media. So our speed of government, once again, gets manipulated by a manipulator. And then when Joe Rogan, who wants legitimization, throws it to Kamala and says, we want you on the show. Can you stand 3 hours of this? And whether Kamala Harris's handlers didn't think she could do 3 hours, or if there was a legitimate time crunch, she came back with, we'll do it for 1 hour and we'll do it remotely. And it's like, you know, if you go back to loss of election, if you go back to whatever, I still think that there was wholesale votes missing. I still think that technology laid in here, but let's just pretend Let's play pretend for a minute and say everything was equal and that there were no ballot swaps and there was no access to the technology of it. And one of the candidates became so fucking cozy with the guy that was maniacal enough to say, votes, we can change votes. What's a vote? Right? You met Reb Beach, huh? Most people call him a sweetheart. Anyways, hey Paula, how are you? Hattie, good to see you in here as well. No, Janet, I'm not being cloned. I'm hiring people. That's the way this stuff goes. We're really getting to a point. Well, hold on a second. These days, Linda just brought up a really good point. She says it doesn't matter that Joe Rogan that she didn't go on Joe Rogan. Rogan spews a lot of right-wing conspiracy stuff these days. Okay, so great comment, by the way. I love that comment. I think we also have to analyze why he's quote unquote all this right-wing stuff lately. And I'm not defending Joe Rogan. I think some of the stuff I've watched the Elon interview, and it was one of the most arrogant, out of touch things I've ever seen from a human. And my defense of Elon Musk is, you know what? He's trying to do some genius shit here. Like, you're going to be a little misunderstood. The more he talks, though, the dumber he gets. Just like Trump. The individuals don't really pan out in any of this. But here's the part that we can't lose sight of. We're about to become the ones that need a narrative. Uh-oh. The last 9 years have been nothing short of flipping the script. How do you make, and listen, conspiracy theorists and so forth and so on. Listen, if you want to say that there is, let's lose the word conspiracy for a minute. Let's just use the word theory. The reason why it becomes a conspiracy is because there's alternative factors and more people that need to be involved with it. More than one person has to be manipulated, right? The conspiracy theories about 9/11 are somebody needed to let those people in to put the thermite on all of the steel. So somebody had to look the other way. Somebody probably got paid. Somebody's going to talk. And that conspiracy theory gets legs because it just gets bigger. It gets to a conspiracy because there's more people that are kind of like sideways. But wait, there's more. Listen, Pete Buttigieg should be running this fucking country. Excuse my French. And I don't care if you don't like his politics. The dude knows how to handle himself in any argument. But back to Joe Rogan here for a second. I do not disparage Joe Rogan for diving into this. He's a good point. He's a reality TV star, right? He is, but I'm going back to this, and I'm not defending him to defend him. I'm not defending some of the things Joe Rogan's done. I want to defend the concept that he embraced to start, which was giving a voice to those that needed it. Giving a voice to say, what if? What do we know? We don't know. He honestly picked the exact right topics at the exact right time. And he's had some nutcases on. I mean, no doubt. No doubt. Theo Vaughn, take him or leave him. He's a recovering addict that is looking for space for his brain. Their conversations go sideways in a hurry. The Elon Musk one. He's also, though, had some real scientific counterculture things where the scientific elite will not acknowledge how the younger Dryas literally is repeatable. And that we need to go there. Donald Trump 100%. There was money exchange there 100%. And I don't know that I think he paid Trump, to be honest. Hey, Catherine, good to see you again. Pete Buttigieg is one of those even keel people that in no uncertain terms knows how to say it in the most concise way. Like, he edits better than anybody else I've seen in the public limelight. The fact that Mark Kelly, the perfect ticket to me, honestly, if you go back to the entire Joe Biden, let's just say at the beginning, in year 3, they sat down and had an honest conversation with the Democratic Party. And they said, we're going to work with Mark Kelly and Pete Buttigieg in some combination of president, vice president. We're not talking like we are today, guys. Mark Kelly is a good person. Oh, and by the way, Tim Walz would have been a great cabinet member, a phenomenal cabinet member. I'd have put him in charge of education. Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, Psychic Sleuth, how are you? By the way, I always want to use your proper name now that I'm getting to know you. And I always bite my tongue because I haven't asked you the question if I can call you the R word yet. So, yeah, I think Pete Judy, you guys are going to run at me for this one. I think that having a Cheney Buttigieg ticket would be, thank you, the R. I'll just keep calling you the R word. Liz Cheney and Pete Buttigieg. We don't have political parties anymore. We have political influences. We don't have political parties. The fact that Donald Trump wholesale took over an entire political party in a matter of months tells you how morally corrupt they are. And by the way, the Democrats aren't that far away, right? Kinzinger would be another great one. Like, let's get really good people in charge. Let's make it a rule of thumb. And by the way, I'm building a new company around this media idea. And it is so that then the people that need their voices heard, and by the way, these are people that have medical influence. These are people that have spiritual influence. These are people that have a high emotional IQ that are willing to use their skills and gifts to help other people get there. This will be a cross between Gaia, Hay House, and cultivating a new energy with a new brand of how people connect and learn now. People learn way differently, right? And I love that term authenticity because, listen, we've all got something. Remember what I said about Tim Walz? The thing I just absolutely loved about that man, I didn't agree, right? I didn't agree with Tim Walz on everything. I think his whole, the whole like equality in the bathroom thing was, the fact that he was really pushing an agenda to make sure that if somebody was breaking the public safety health rules, that you could call an 800 number to narc on your neighbor. That's kind of, no, Timmy, we don't do that, Timmy. Right? So, let's start judging people on the content of their character. And by the way, people screw up. I mean, I've certainly screwed up. I mean, I haven't done anything dastardly, but I may have done things that people don't like because I was selfish or because I was self-centered or because I was, oh yeah, I'm gonna apply that, by the way. The governor of Canada. Come on. How juvenile. And by the way, I'm really trying to not swear. How effing juvenile do you need to be to go, I want to thank the governor of Canada what level, like, did Donald Trump see that a CEO got gunned down? I mean, did he not see that? By the way, that leads credence By the way, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but I have a theory. Donald Trump did it for the ratings because he surrounded himself with people that were a bunch of bad fake actors and knew how to pull off bloodletting out of the ear. That would heal in about 2 weeks, 10 days. Put a big freaking maxi pad on your ear, dickhead. Make sure everybody sees it. And then you get into office, and then you have, who is it, Merkel there from Germany, basically going, we probably shouldn't have the U.S. in charge of anything in the UN anymore. You do realize we might get kicked out of the UN. They want to decelerate our status, which we've paid for, and basically turn around and say, but Trump knows that. If we get off the council, right? The UN, for those of you that don't know, the UN is made up of all of the countries of the world except for the ones that love Russia and terrorism. It was designed to be a checkpoint so there was no aggression of political volleying that outside of outside of like trade wars and that sort of thing. Now, Russia, the United States, China, we've all been involved with quite a few proxy wars. You don't have to look any further than Syria right now. But to have a motion in the UN and a movement to kick us out of an organization that we funded is exactly what Donald Trump wants. Don't you get it? Now it doesn't look like it's him. So in 1919, moving into 1921, in between that time, the president at the time, and I can see him with the glasses, wanted to create the League of Nations. The League of Nations was the original UN, but the League of Nations, first of all, sounded like a comic strip. Number two, that attempt was 100%, not that. Yeah. 100%. 100%. It was as real as 9/11, guys. Woodrow Wilson, thank you. I could see him with the wired room glasses, the faux fedora thing. Got us involved with the United Nations, and basically it was a codependent thing between the United States and France at the time, because France is like, we don't want you bombing our shit again. We are tired of surrendering, right? That's my French accent, by the way. So, my regards, Eastern Canada. I'm so sorry. Maintenant, je suis désolé. That's all I know. Qu'est-ce que tu fais, mademoiselle? I can ask for cheese, where the bathroom is, and if you want to have a threesome. That's basically my French. By the way, got me an A+. And always had the teacher looking at me weird. Anyways. You got it, Psychics. We'll see you later. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to be on at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. She's in the mountain ranges. I am in the East Coast. So there we go. So all of this kind of bringing, I do like the cheese omelet. Oh, there you go. Everybody's kind of saying it now. So the League of Nations was created, and it kind of fell apart because not everybody bought into it. There were a lot of rules. The U.S. was very much like, what do you mean? And then the French were just like, we will be the key to the... So from that, it was a sovereignty. And by the way, the UN does have Russia and China involved with them. Because they basically said the League of Nations, where they went wrong is it was very exclusionary. It was kind of an us versus them. It was an extended Axis versus Allied type of thing. So when after World War II ended, and we had some real conflict, the UN was created out of a bunch of different conflicted things. One of them was Iraq and how that was going to be divided up. The Pacific time is going to be 5 p.m. for you. Hawaiian time is going to be 4 p.m., I think. Anyways. Smell like elderberries. Here we go again. Do we have to go down that Monty Python thing? So the idea was formed during out of World War I. World War II, they needed some serious business. They had to cut up Germany, East and West Germany. Had to split up Iraq. And for lack of better terms, Iraq was, I mean, it was basically, it was a Persian entity. Iran needed its borders handed to it. Syria needed to kind of come into play. And of course, Israel was awarded through all of this, peace treaty work and whatever. And then that's where the tensions began. And instead of saying, the people that were trying to find a two-state solution, part of why they failed at that, and there's some good reason for it, is that they really had a hard time recognizing how much of a cultural deep dive cut this was between the Muslims and the Jewish population. They just never understood it. But I want to take a look at the chart, and I want to talk about, look at the world affairs right now. Do you want to know why things are going down in South? Look at this. You got South Korea that basically said, no, you will not enforce martial law or we will overthrow the government. You have Syria falling apart, where their dictator for the better part of 45 years, the dictating family who won free elections, wonder where they got their ideas from. The Trump administration is, if nothing else, is not original. Hugo Chavez applauded the free election of Trump. Fucking, come on, stop. We've lost all the core backbone that America has been. Let's be honest. And part of this you're seeing in resonance. I think it was Mali where there was an overthrow of the state house. There was, oh my gosh, of course I go to talk about it and I can't remember it. But there have been consistent overthrows of government. There have been consistent, France had a vote of no confidence. Has a really unique, thing going on right now with immigration, because as much and by the way, we're going to go to the chart now. And by the way, this is a lot, right? This is a lot. Look at all those lines, B. Yeah. By the way, as of tonight, the moon is in Taurus. If you don't make it about you, nobody else will. I think I just straightened out, by the way. Oh, I see what's going on. Yeah, I actually had two windows open. I shouldn't have had open. It does look like a spirograph. Thank you very much. By the way, still a great present. If you got a kid about that age, spirographs, don't ever discount the idea that spirographs aren't a cool gift, because they are. Sorry, I had to close out a couple of things. I thought I had closed them out already. So taking a look at a chart like this is today. I use New York, for lack of better terms, whatever. I want you to take a look at two things going on here. You have Venus. Congratulations, Debbie. You have Venus in opposition to Mars. This is happening today. This is happening right now. Right? And they still sell them. So when you look at Mars opposition to Venus in a transit chart, and by the way, a transit chart would be somebody's, if somebody was born today, right now, this is their chart, right? We're pretty close to it right now. But the tension of Mars and Venus is insane. The Irish unique problem that they have with immigration isn't that, here in the US, they come over the border, right? Whichever border it is. Oh, and by the way, Donald Trump wholesale lied about every single border statistic that he talked about with the Canadian Prime Minister. He is the Prime Minister, Donald. I know this is a civics lesson, but Canada has a Prime Minister because it still has a sovereignty loyalty to the United Kingdom, to England in specific. Therefore, it is the Prime Minister. It is a figurehead to have the Queen, or now King, have it be the oversight of what happens in good old Canada. Tariffs are the tax that you put on an item that a company that you're charging chooses to either A, eat the cost, and they never do, or B, pass that on to the consumers, sometimes at a premium, because they are able to price gouge because of the scarcity of the product. Number 3, there are 3 branches of government. Anyways, this tension was already created with Mars being in opposition to Pluto. Now, along comes Polly. Venus comes along, sizes up with Pluto, and goes full freaking Lilith, right? And to push this, he's absolutely being disrespectful. Disrespectful in the packaging of stupidity. In this, and again, you can see this on the ascendant here. And again, the ascendant is a time and place as well. This changes, as we talk about it, right? Correct. Thank you. The governor general that represents the monarchy. So you understood what I was trying to say. You found the right words. Thank you very much, Canada. We love you. Be our trade partner and snuggle with us in the cold. So Mars being in opposition here happens to be on the rising, right? So in the flip part of this, when Pluto shows up with Venus, by the way, some of you ladies are feeling very ladylike right now, aren't you? You're also being a little independent, very Lilith of you. And by the way, just in case you were wondering, it's a wide square, but Lilith is squaring said Venus and said Mars. It's actually forming a trine. It's punching us right in the collective nads. Hitting us right in the gonads. Oh, and by the way, look at that. There is the moon in Taurus forming a grand cross. A grand fixed cross right now. So, of course, we have governments being overthrown. But wait, there's more. Algo, which, by the way, I added right in here, it is not a common practice to add in fixed stars into astrological signias. However, you're dealing with a professional here, and I went ahead and did it. Up here, if you take a look in the 11th house, I went ahead and just plucked Algo right in there. If you could zoom in, which I know many of you can't, but it's at 26 degrees. So it's just left of the 11th and 10th house divider here. What's right next to it at 24 degrees? Well, that's Uranus. Very elaborate. Algol is being courted by Uranus and has been for some time, which is why we have all of this upheaval, right? Uranus in its return days, which, by the way, next year is a full return for the United States. It's an 84-year cycle. Oh, I love that. I love that you're sharing that, Carol. She mentioned, Algol, it's in my 4th house. Never feel at home anywhere. Right? Woohoo! Melissa, what house are you focused in on between Libra and Scorpio? At least everybody gets along. Right? You'd be very driven. And by the way, you'd probably be a really good psychic sleuth. You might be somebody that's really good at checking things out. Oh, hey, Buckley, how are you? No, I wasn't. Don't you get it? We get to create our own reality now, Buckley. I know that's not your name. Thanks for sharing. So as you start to recognize what's going on with us, and by the way, you see a lot of the astrologers and a lot of the people that were predicting this stuff, right? You had a massive amount of people talking about the astrology and how, both Trump and Kamala Harris have like a really like indelible chart. Like they both have stuff going positive for them. The part of it that people don't recognize is that if you really listen to everybody, and I'm not trying to gaslight any of this, but if you really go back and listen, because I've spent some time in every single one of those videos, that astrologer, that person that was doing their interpretation, literally would turn around and say, but Donald's chart is strong here too. He's just working with some other selfish motives. That's all. Now, is it wishful thinking that we wanted Kamala to win because we thought it would be whatever? Who knows? Maybe if she won, we wouldn't get to the bottom of it and we would have sugarcoated it again another 4 years. Again, I'm not trash talking her. I'm just telling you the what ifs. It's about time we start actually talking about that. So yeah, Donald Trump stole the election, but it is one until they actually put those machines through the test. And by the way, anything that is substantial and authentic will be tested. And that tested moniker, there is and let's have an honest bait right here. Who here would, if you were shown that, you know what, guys, there are however many, there were 15,000 machines across the country, 20,000. We tested 1/3 of them, and they substantiated that Donald Trump won the election. We would have said, like, okay, it still screwed up, but that's okay. You have to understand, we're not upset that Donald Trump won. We're upset that Donald Trump won in a way that wasn't scrutinized. When he lost the election legitimately, he tested it 183 times. They found one small anomaly where they said, yeah, we need to go back and recount that. They recounted it, and Joe Biden picked up 3 votes. That's the kind of scrutiny we were all hoping for. And when we went, no, can we just take a look at that? Don't be a conspiracy theorist. You're just like them. Did you just shit shame me for checking my work? When you go back and you listen to what Donald Trump had to say, and quite frankly, Kamala Harris, it was a PR campaign. It wasn't a PR campaign about facts. It wasn't a PR campaign about what we're going to do at the board. Well, we have a concept of a plan. No, you don't. Your concept of a plan is to watch CEOs scrape the bottom of the barrel for decades until somebody gets capped. Murder's wrong. And then, and only then, instead, how are you going to view that? People are criticizing the applaud of that. For the same reason that Donald Trump got elected, allegedly, is the same reason why this guy shot the CEO, allegedly. Dissatisfaction with the process. Dissatisfaction with the outcome. The lack of integrity and authenticity. The fact that it's not stood up to any scrutiny whatsoever. 7 months ago, that CEO stood in front of Congress and lied his balls off. And through that moment was when they opened up an investigation of his pump and dump scheme with his stock. It wasn't about your health. And by the way, shame on the shareholders. Oh, by the way, check your portfolio. How much did you make from it? It is put up time, everybody. You start voting with your money. On the other piece of this, he literally sat there and said, "Oh no, we needed to sell them because they expire." Which, by the way, is a bullshit thing. The way that they work with C-level people, and I know this because I've negotiated it. Basically, say we need to keep you for 7 years. Your parachute package is going to include, and by the way, during those 7 years, there are multiple things that happen in management. The first thing is you need your first 3 years in order to surge ahead and make sure that you get all your pieces in place. In other words, you're firing, you're hiring, you're moving things in, you're working new philosophies, you're doing your training, you're doing all that stuff. Then in year 4 and 5, you are cashing in. That is where you get your return on whatever investment you put into a C-level person, whether it be finance, CEO, CIO, whatever the deal, right? Then on year 6 and 7, when they're just kind of all of a sudden they're just kind of like I've gotten the XYZ LLC to the best place that I could bring it, and I really feel it's time to move on. Flush. The stock price is at an all-time high. They've inflated it to a certain point. And during those 7 years, by the way, is the audit cycle of financial securities. So during that time, if you play it just right, you come in at the end of an audit, or you have the audit in year 1, your cleanup, your anomalies. And by the way, the old guy was the jerk. The old guy was the one that didn't do it right. And then you can turn it and move it into your own. I see you guys thanking one another, and I love that. Oh, I see. Janet, good job. Thank you. And by the way, all of these honks that are out there saying capitalism or bust, you're going to be a socialist? You're going to be a communist? Come here. I'm going to let you in on this. Communism doesn't work in Russia because they have oligarchs and they don't have a true communist society. And socialism is the ability to tax people to provide the bare essentials so no one drops out and bottoms out. It does not put a cap on a ceiling, but it does put a requirement to the money provided to their state, which is the argument. Should you tax it at 25 or 50%? In England, they do. Is that fair? I don't know. I don't know if I'd have a business in England. Maybe it wouldn't work. Maybe it wouldn't work. Why should I pay so much into it? Capitalism doesn't work because it basically allows the people that can grift, that have the resources, and by the way, resources include brain power, education, socioeconomic advantages. If you got Daddy Warbucks behind you, you're going to be able to invest in something, pay it off early, and not get hit with penalties. But if you're an average Joe like me and you buy a rental and you have two family flat, and one of the people decides that they just don't want to pay you anymore and they want to squat, and then the other one just leaves the water running by accident and floods your entire basement and makes your first floor unstable and makes everything need to be replaced, and your insurance company basically says you didn't actually vet your person, and then you said, well, they're a friend of the family, and they said, well, you're screwed. And then all of a sudden you're upside down in your mortgage because the guy on the first floor or on the top floor doesn't pay. The person on the second floor just basically trashed the place, and you need to put her up because now there's mold and mice and blah, blah, blah. Do you think that's happening to the Daddy Warbucks situation? No, they're going to come in. They're going to replace the first floor. They're going to get the person upstairs out of there. They're going to be able to pay for the extradition. Like all those things in a capitalistic society, the more you got, the more you got. It is not an even playing field. And then when you pay into things like insurance, look at how much you pay into insurance. It's insane for them to deny you for anything. I had a friend of mine who was in the insurance business for decades. And he said the first thing you need to understand about the insurance industry is their job is to not pay you. Their job is to figure out a way where their risk won't connect with their return. And their return is cutting you off right before you need them. 100%. My dad was honorably discharged at 19 years and 9 months. So he didn't hit his 20 year. That's not, is that a capitalistic society? He was a volunteer that got paid. But we have Summerfest in Milwaukee. Thanks, Emo. Rental assistance, yeah. Tart and Spice, I totally see that. Bastin. Yeah, there is a parlay into that there is things. And by the way, if the ACA is going away, they won't cover pre-existing conditions. What's the sense in having it? The goal of a president is to make the country better, to protect, serve, without favor, bias or favor. Like, we can't believe that you accepted the man Donald Trump. We're disgusted at the candidate Donald Trump. This country needs a serious education in civics. We don't understand it, at least not in the casual fan. And by the way, you can say, hey, listen, this country was bought and charged and blah, blah, blah with our veterans. I don't disagree with that. My dad's a veteran. My dad's got a half a leg. Didn't lose it in war, but he lose it with the shitty health care. Full circle conversation. If you present an alternative solution, we get obsessed with the problem in this country. We get obsessed with whether or not we're on the right side of an argument. Our teachers need to get good at one thing and ask this question, but what are you going to do about it? I don't mind if students create their political views. And again, teachers are still going to have their biases. Admit your biases. I do. And by the way, nobody gets upset with me anymore. When I say, hey, just to let you know, as a Republican for years, I was more on the libertarian side, but when I watched what happened with Trump, I wanted to run. I also wanted to get involved with local politics where it is a democratically run city. Now, quite frankly, I'm looking into a third party. And none of them seem to fit my point of view. Maybe I'll create my own political party. Just thought I'd put that out there. Right? Bernie Sanders is one of the underutilized treasures of this country. And I don't agree with everything that he says. Oh, shit. Hey, Kat, can you send me a message? Kat, send me a message. I might have a solution for you depending upon where you are. So there are rogue nurses, by the way. And I've asked them to formally do this. Yeah, but Kat, on the other side of this, do you need to get it removed because your insurance doesn't cover it? Or are you getting it removed because you're done with your treatment? If you're done with your treatment, it's like, okay, cool. Listen, saline flushes. Oh, God, I can tell you the medical stuff. I still think I went through all this medical stuff for a whole host of reasons so that I could speak intelligently about my experience. I once went into I've just got these horrible feet. I'm a Pisces. It's a thing. And when I didn't have my arms wrapped around the diabetes, I didn't know I had it even. I had this wound and it was infected. My whole leg was red. To get the attention of a nurse or a doctor that knew what they were looking at, they would have had an IV drip in me in about 7 minutes. Based on approvals and looking at this, like they would have looked at this and said, oh, awesome. Let's celebrate you being cancer free. But still send me a message because I want to get you hooked up with somebody who's, by the way, Brandon's been doing some underground shit, guys. Oh, and by the way, Los Alamos, thanks for watching. I know you guys tune in. I know you guys check out my website on the regular. You want to see what I'm about. I'm authentic. Knock on my front door. Quit trying to fucking stalk me. Anyways, this is when everybody's like, and then he went missing. Oh, well. By the way, I'm just going to let you know, I didn't kill myself. That's awkward. We're more of mermen. That's who we are. But I don't want it to be a sport anymore, Carol. Like, we deserve better than this. What do we really need our government to do? Really, look outside your door. I need my roads plowed. Right? You know I can turn that into something out. What else do you need plowed, Brandon? All right, calm down. Despite the rumors, I am not the target Santa. Number 2, I need them to have a functional methodology that if somebody does something wrong, I have relief. In other words, I can take somebody to court. I could call the police to arrest them. I can do things that are structured in nature, right? You know, I get clean water at my house. I get those things. And that's pretty much it. You know, on the other side of this, when you really think about it, our government really has very few jobs that they actually just have to do well. And when you say to me, we need to protect our borders, we need to actually execute the processes in place. We don't need more laws if somebody gets attacked in a hate crime. What that guy did was a hate crime because he murdered him. We don't need another law. We don't need to say, oh, yes, CEOs need to have a special dispensation. You're going to get in double trouble then. No. Anybody that's ever been part of the political system of trials and everything else know that it is about where can you pin somebody to accept a plea? Because they don't want to go to trial. Because if you go to trial, then you're leaving it to a judge to say, or a jury to be able to say, this is the extent in which I think that they were right or wrong. And if it doesn't reach a certain threshold, the whole thing needs to get thrown out. Right? That is why there is an incredibly large African-American population incarcerated, because they ain't got the money to outweigh the charges. So they're going to take a plea that gets them to where they need to. So then they go, well, and then we have this ancestral problem of this cycle where they're like, well, dad went away for 15 years. I only have to go away for 6. I'm going to take that 6. Doesn't matter if they did it or not. It doesn't matter the level of the crime. These problems are cyclical, guys. They are cyclical. Am I advocating for Black African-American men that have been railed against in a system? Yes. But am I also going to say we need to hold them accountable for doing something wrong? Because in the culture that we want to create, I don't want somebody running around with a gun. I don't want somebody selling drugs. I don't want, and it sounds like I'm using a generalization, but if you look at a docket, here's a challenge. Go to your local jail and visit somebody and say, I don't want you to be alone on Christmas. I'll wait. Are we worth our salt? Has anyone ever done that? I have. Randomly. Found a man. Ironically, his name is a famous baseball player that just got signed. I picked Juan Soto. I think it was De Soto. And I came to visit him, and he thought I was his new lawyer. And I said, Juan, I don't know what you've done, but I want to let you know that somebody on the outside was looking after you today. And he looked at me, and he struggled with English. I don't know if he was an immigrant. His name sounded immigrantish. His crime was possession of a stolen item. Which, by the way, if I went to trial for that, they would have let me go because of a first-time offense. But he says, no habla español, no habla inglés. He needed a translator, a public defender. And when he said, Trianos, hay Trianos. Because that's what he said to me. And he was so happy that his family, who was in Florida now, he was going to get to go and get out because he was going to have a suspended sentence, right? He was so happy. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, you're going to be on probation. You can't leave the state yet. So you're not going to understand that, and you're going to leave. And you're going to go to Florida, and they're going to pick you up on some violation. And they're going to say you're wanted in New York because you didn't understand what you were being held for. He didn't get a civics lesson. He gets a pass. And by the way, there are good judges. There are good cops. There are good law enforcement people along in the system that look at that and go, oh, Juan, we got to get you squared away here. Like you're technically I need to take you back, but let's sort this out. There are good people that do that. Praise whatever God you worship. We're getting this wrong because we're not compassionate. We're getting it wrong because we have to embrace shamanism and the judicious nature of shamanism. It is not to overcorrect. It is not to punish. It is not punitive. We are obsessed with Hammurabi's code in this country. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Justinian law. Whatever you do to me, I get to do to you. Okay. That is very appropriate for civilization that doesn't understand inflicting pain on another isn't going to make you feel any better, and it doesn't solve anything. Again, that's great that you believe in that, but what did you solve? What did you solve? We think we live in a safe world because we incarcerate more people than anybody else. What are you, nuts? We're assholes. We were assholes to the Native Americans. We are now assholes to immigrants. We are assholes to our neighbors because we just wanted what we needed to get. Maybe that passage in the Bible is right. Our greed to become whoever the fuck we think we are meant to be is wholesale wrong. I encourage you to do something that you feel safe in doing. Maybe it's sitting in a homeless shelter. Maybe it's going to visit them. And by the way, don't patronize them. Come back in the spring. See them once a month. You can start it now. But you'll gain your authenticity if you help them. If you ever really get stuck too, you can always go, Jim, I love that asshole legacy. You got that right. No, Vance is definitely going to make a move here. Yeah, Donald Trump, they quit giving him his pep pills, whatever that is. Donald Trump is fading away right in front of us. Oh, and that testosterone, toxic masculinity. All you need to do is just drive down the street in anywhere in America, and you are eventually going to see that guy with 3 freaking flags hanging off the back, the big ass tires, and yeah, America. I'm done trying to explain it to them, right? Slaves. Nunya, thank you. I love that. And by the way, those of you that have heard me share my experience in Memphis going to the Civil Rights Museum, it was eye-opening. The fact that that is not a required, and by the way, it doesn't have to be that, right? Listen, Vance, none of these people have brains. They have pockets, right? Donald Trump is the Trojan horse to get him in there. He was the orator. He was the idea behind it, where it's almost like if you watch history and you watch how Hitler came to power and how that idealism spread, it was disenfranchised people because they didn't like that there was a lack of social constraint and predictability. Go back and review your insurance policy right now, your healthcare insurance policy. And by the way, I've been saying this for 10 years now. You think you have money in the bank right now, don't you? In a moment's notice, they could go, there's a glitch. Everybody, tonight, print out your statements, whatever account you have, your investments, your pensions, your bank accounts, print them out so you can say, I have this. Print out two, because they're going to want an original. They just made votes disappear. What makes you think that your money won't disappear when you get mouthy? I just heard a whole lot of, oh shit, he's right. It's a thing. It's a distraction. Why not make this up? Why not go down a path of like insanity? Is Santa Claus real? We have perpetuated a lie now for centuries. My 11-year-old son, we just had this conversation. My 11-year-old son, the smart ones always have cash on hand, kids. My 11-year-old son requires the elf to move every day or thinks something's wrong. My 13-year-old goes, ha, Santa! And you will believe too. The 18-year-old goes, Santa. Santa make PS5s, Dad? Yeah, they got a technology degree now. They've got a Sony division up there. But my 11-year-old is just smitten with the idea of the joy and the look for, and some of it's kind of his own ADHD, OCD. We refuse to get him diagnosedness of where's the elf? Where's the elf? It's his reason to get up in the morning, right? And he got in trouble in school today, and I said, we should really tell the elf what's going on. And the consensus at the table was, now is when you're going to pull that one. When he's on the verge of just tipping this, here we go, right? In the age of us waking up, it's Christmas Eve. And right now, we want to stay up all night and listen for the footprints. We want to catch Santa coming down the chimney tree. We want Santa to be real, because that lie that we've told ourselves, the lie that we tell each other, The lie that we instill with our children extended to a faith that it represents the kindness of the world. And why did Santa do all of this? Because he was so kind because of the birth of a child in a manger at about 1 AD. To parents that were immigrants that could not find a place to stay because they were outcasts. And they made the most of it, and they formed the backbone of who they were. They were good, hardworking people. He was a carpenter. She was going to be a stay-at-home mom. For whatever reason, they only had one-ish. But this lie that we tell ourselves about Santa, and then we evolved it, and I saw your post there. It's that spirit of Christmas. It's that spirit of giving. Well, I just laid down a challenge. How many of you have gone to visit the sick, the poor? And by the way, there is a difference between providing comfort for someone and making it comfortable. When you stop someone and you talk to someone that's suffering mentally, whatever, and you talk to them for a few minutes, you have provided comfort. You didn't put them up in a 5-star hotel. You don't have to make them comfortable. That's not what it said. Give them comfort. We get this wrong big time. Huge time. I love that. Music Man, good to see you, friend. Yeah, isn't it great when Warrior shows up? We mistaken compassion for taking it over because we're Americans. We think that meditation is climbing a mountain and sitting underneath a lotus tree. And by the way, the higher the better. Am I right, gals? No! Go within yourself for 10 minutes. That's all that meditation is. But we grandize it. We illusionize it. Santa Claus, I mean, listen, let's teach critical thinking. Yeah, he makes all the toys for all the kids around the world. In each one of the time zones, he hits it at midnight. Ding, 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 ding. And he goes everywhere because it's magic and shit. And, but the people that were sold on that were sold on the lie that surrounds every religion, the mythos of it. And the truth is, when you pull back the layers, every single world religion currently is based in one of three tones. It almost always takes something from an older religion, right? Like Zoroastrian. If you look at Zoroastrian, it has his heels in everything. By the way, it was practiced up until about 6000 BC. Then all of a sudden, quote, went away right about the time that Judaism took over. But whatever. You also have off-planet stuff, whether it be Hinduism or people riding up into clouds. Thank you very much, Mother Mary. You also have the dynamic of these fables and these stories, of a flood that we then tied to the Younger Dryas period where the entire world flooded. We found geological proof of it. So that must mean the Bible is true, isn't it, Noah? I mean, Gilgamesh. I mean, Yatsumi. Oh, I'm sorry. How old is that story? 2x2? There have been no less than 5 world flooding stories based on religious implications, all having different connotations with the same story. Same thing with Jesus. Mithra, Mesis, all of them have implications of other sun gods that were born of a virgin by divine conception that ended up with 12 followers that had a martyr death. And then there's Santa, based in the Alps, meant to represent one of the saints, one of the pagan saints of the holidays, to put on a wreath around their tree with candles in joyous exultation. By the way, that wreath with the candles becomes your advent calendar. 3 purple and 1 pink, everybody. Those of you that have skipped a few Sunday schools since. By the way, it wasn't necessarily about having gifts. It was about recognizing that maybe you put a penny in a shoe to be like, go get a piece of candy you really like, kid. They turned into gifts. They turned into hanging stockings by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would make you buy into it. No, I wasn't there for the meeting when I became a parent to be like, how are you going to handle the Santa thing? Are you going to use the stockings? What's your philosophy? I love the SNL skit when he goes, honey, I bought you a car for Christmas. It's the Audi special, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, what? You are unemployed. What are you doing? You bought a major purchase without me? Like, it's hysterical because it just blows up everything about Christmas. Because, like it or hate it, most of the things that I've had to keep in check is to say, am I buying you this because you're a good person? Because that's what I'm supposed to be doing, having a list, checking it twice? Or is it because I was working late every night and a PS5 is kind of a little bit of a makeup here for you, kid? How many people have overspent at Christmas? How many people have bought so much shit and so many presents and so much bustle and so much hustle that you literally, in no uncertain terms, overspent, overextended yourself, and January became literally depressing? Between now and the end of the year, each one of my kids gets a whole day with me. I might have obligations here and there and whatever. Hell, I might even do a live where the kid pokes his head in and goes, hey, Dad, we getting Wendy's yet? All right, whatever. I'm giving them my time. And by the way, that's not as cool as some of the rock star stuff that they might want. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to have an experience and do those things. But we spend money because we think we overcome that part that we left empty. And then you pick apart your Christmases. Remember that thing you wanted? That pony? That whatever? That date game? That easy bake oven? By the way, Coca-Cola is one of the best marketing firms in the world. Oh, and by the way, I spend time with my dad and my mom. I love her. She gets shit from me, but yeah. There's a blessing in coming to the realization that you overspent. And by the way, the spirit of Christmas is kind of what we're trying to present to everybody. At the end of Scrooge, when he sat there and he says, this is a day where you say, here's a sandwich. And you're a little kinder and you're a little nicer. Why can't we do that every day? Now I want to hear you guys in the back. You can hardly see them nipples. One of the best lines. The part that we fail to recognize, and the part that we have to remember is, do you remember how you felt on November 6th? Do you remember how you felt on December 24th, 19 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever age you are. When you found and you were on that threshold, that precipice, that 11-year-old energy, that you still believed in something and you didn't want it to end. But then between that day and the next year, you only had this much to go and you burnt it. Santa became a construct. And you began to critically think. And by the way, anybody that's worth their salt realizes how much sacrifice most of our parents made. Not everybody got a pound of veal. Right? Oh, I love that diva. By the way, great shout out to Tesla Diva 369. I know what you're doing. And, if you remember that, and by the way, how many ghosts did Ebenezer Scrooge come in contact with? The popular answer is 3. The correct answer is 4. Because don't forget, his boss came to him. Pound of veal is a reference to Scrooge, because Scrooge with Bill Murray, because that's what his father got him. He had 4 ghosts come to him. The first one was his boss basically saying, here's your tower moment. You suck. The second one came in and said, this is where you had it good. The third one said, this is when you didn't know the difference and things were simpler. And the last one was, where are you going with this? Because right now you're an empty suit. Empty suit. We're in an empty suit, guys. We're going to wake up tomorrow out of all of this, and we have to figure out who we are. By the way, a miracle happens when you find out the truth about Santa. What you begin to do is that then you realize that your motivation to be kind isn't because there's a boogeyman watching you, which, by the way, is kind of freaking creepy. But it's now about your golden days. You are kind and you are a good person, not because of your motivation to get an easy bake oven, which, by the way, who doesn't? But then you also recognize that you are a good person regardless. That you choose to be a good person. Your motivation is no longer manipulation. You have free will. I don't get anything. There was no health care for Tiny Tim. Well, he couldn't have been that much of a socialist. Not a good one. He was a socialist, but he wasn't a good one. But when you wake up and you have that free will, it becomes everything. Which is my point of tonight's talk. You have free will. We can choose to be angry. We can choose to be disassociated. We can choose to be whatever we want it to be. But the way that we begin, he felt betrayed. Oh my gosh. How many other people felt betrayed when you found out the truth about Santa? Next, how did you feel about the idea that the church, whatever church you went to, wasn't authentic? By the way, notice how I don't bash the existence of. I went to Joel Osteen's church in Houston when I was down there because I wanted the experience. And I went in there ready to go, and I'm like, oh, you're letting your bias get in your way, because, I do that. And one of the things that I realized with it is that people needed it. People needed whatever grifty shit he was going to say. They just needed it every Sunday. Praise Jesus. You know what? One of these days I'm going to get down there to that pit. And I'm going to have Joel Osteen do a prayer right on my head. That's my goal. In the meantime, I'm going to make sure I don't hurt nobody. I'm going to make sure I'm fair. And I'm going to feed the homeless, and I'm going to do those things. If that's the motivation behind it, Is it bad? There's a hurricane coming. Could we open up your facilities so people are protected? Ooh, we just got the floors done. And by the way, it's a full Persian bazaar when you go in there, and people are getting autographs from him, but some people need it. Oh, the Catholic Church is 100% wholesale stolen every pagan tradition. Every single one, all of them, of the patron saints can be aligned with a god or goddess in Roman or Greek mythology. Every one of them. Right? Because we want to be blessed, and we want to be, even the whole idea of Christmas in and of itself was a pagan. Oh my gosh, just read about Constantine, read about how Italy was the highest bidder, read about all of these things. It's bullshit, which makes you then realize that it's bullshit, which goes back to somebody else's comment earlier, and I want to give it credit, but if I start scrolling, I'm going to get lost again. We're tired of being lied to. People talk about unconditional love all the time. And if you don't know better, you stay a slave to the unconditional love. Here it is. You ever have a loyal dog, a loyal animal? They don't know that whatever you did when you left the house could have been dastardly or suspect or whatever. They don't care. They just done love to seeing you. Right? What's that one meme? If you leave 3 minutes later and the dog thinks that you were gone a whole day, you leave 6 hours, you come back, the dog thinks you were gone all day. You leave for 6 months, they come back, they think you were here yesterday. Right? It's unconditional love. If you have ever had a child that has been addicted, you understand how unconditional love can be tested. If that person hurts you enough, you will drop the unconditional part. Sorry, I said it. And you will replace it with things like, well, I still love them, but the word but comes in. It is no longer unconditional. And by the way, if you treat them with unconditional love, has boundaries, so that then it can never be unconditional. That's a thing, guys. We were told that there was a man that lived on the North Pole that had rogue elves that could build all the toys for us if we believed and were good to your sister and did good work for other people. And you created in emptiness, but unconditional love. But. Have you noticed the new workaround for just about everything? You're going to open your phone and you just want to send somebody a text, and then it's got 15 million things to say to you. Did you know that this is about to expire? Did you know that this is whatever? Hey, here's a thing from Temu. Fell into that one once. And then all of a sudden the conversation is like, I just need my phone to be a phone. I just want to make a call. I just want to send a message to somebody. And then you go to open it up and it says, oh, you need to update this. And you're so inconvenienced, and rightfully so. Because they just input things. The new delay game is this term. Are you ready? All you got to do is click OK. All you got to do is download the new software. All you got to do is go over here and then do this and then do that, and then you're all set. There's simple steps. We use this. But what are we really using? They're stealing time from us when all you gotta do is be a good person and Santa will give you stuff. All you gotta do is. And by the way, it's, and then you start to get into a relationship with somebody or start to work at a job, and then they're like, all you got to do is this. And they give you the one inconvenient thing, the one thing that compromises you. Forget about being inconvenient, that one thing that compromises you. Hey, we're a great company. We provide water to the homeless. We also, we believe every single time there's a fire, we send a case of water, so that then the firefighters get the water that they need. We also do a drive every year to make sure that inner city youth gets bottles of water down at the basketball hoops. We do a lot of things. Yeah, all you got to do is turn the other way when we put in the biofluorochemicals. But think of all the good you're doing. Look at all the good that Santa does. All you got to do is look the other way to logic. We are trained to not think critically. And understand this. Critical thinking is where it's going to be at. And critical thinking is not criticized thinking. Big difference. Critical thinking is when you care enough to use a logical process to say, what about this? I'm currently working with a handful of people to make this vision come together. And one of the things I make sure of is, how are you going to challenge me? And somebody says, well, you're the boss. I'm not going to challenge you. Thank you for your time. How are you going to challenge me? Well, I think I'm going to need to understand your perspective so I can present my perspective so we can have a dialogue about why. My God, I look like such a stoner when I freeze. How are you going to challenge me? Well, I'm going to need to understand your perspective so that then I can present my perspective so we can have an intelligent conversation about why I think it could go a different way, because I think that there's some possibilities that you might have. Brandon, I think you might have a blind spot at times, and it's my job to be in here to do that. I hope you return the favor. You start Monday. Right? When somebody wants you, remember our good luck with that story the other way? Hey, I know that I'm really embracing the idea that totalitarian state is really good, but Brandon, I need to connect with my grandmother. Good luck with that. Because I energetically can't work with that. By the way, those of you that are wondering why I am a compassionate person, I like to think I am, but I have skin in this game. And I have had, I remember being on the podcast with Penny, and I didn't realize I advocated for myself enough. And she didn't understand why I got so adamant about this. And I was very anti-Trump pre-election. I'm very pro let's not have criminals run the country. And I know everybody's got something, but the convicted ones we should be able to rule out. That's still my stance. And in turn, she was like really shocked that I was livid. I'm like, no, I will not be quiet. I will attack this with everything that I have, and I will be a resistance. I will not bow. I will not be a sycophant to it, because the agenda that they're putting forward hurts everyone I love. Oh, well, gay people, some trans people, people that have been marginalized, whatever. My kids were born of an immigrant and became naturalized citizens when they were born. Donald J. Trump has announced that they want to ship back to a country that they don't know, a country of origin of their mother, who they do not even know. Because he just wants to wave his wand and have no practical application. Donald Trump wants to undo everything I've done. Come get it. Scares the shit out of me. Makes me want to be compromised to make sure I get what I need out of this. Instead, I fight. You want to start making the rules up as you go and move the goalposts, and God damn it, so will I. I'm not going to be quiet. That's why I started a media company. By the way, I'm pretty good in a mental, intelligent conversation. Uh-huh. Julie, you nailed it. Eric, Don, and Ivanka would all need to go too. So would Barron. Oh, and by the way, look up Melania's naturalization bullshit. Wow. She came in on a genius visa. But my kid's a criminal? I'm a criminal for harboring them? Who fucking made that up? I was told that if I was a good person and I helped other people, there would be some sort of karmic reward for me. There would be some sort of like status quo. And I'll never forget when we did the adoption, everybody came up and, guys, this is amazing. You're giving these kids a shot. This is you're going to be good parents. You're going to be amazing people. You can't wait to see you do this. Hip, hip, hooray. 3 cheers for the Russes. Then you have an asshat come in and go, that's illegal. That's wrong. They're going to go back to their country of origin. They were born at Albany Med Hospital, New York. But their mother was an immigrant. Fuck you. I invested my life in them. I invested my energetic compassion to be driven in a way to build an entire life around this, to not work for a 9 to 5 so that then I could break off early, get him from school if I needed to go see a play, to go see a soccer game. The gig economy would be better served for that. I'm tired of being lied to. I was either lied to at the precipice that the American dream incorporated an opportunity for me to be a good person, and I'm going to adopt children because of the circumstances that presented themselves. And now you're going to villainize me for doing this because I'm harboring an illegal? Or are you lying to me now saying you're going to threaten me to do that and use fear as a tactic in a pawn in your bigger game of bullshit so you can grift on things? By the way, I'd like to congratulate the Trump organization for finishing their latest project in Saudi Arabia. What was it, an 87-story tower in downtown Dubai? Maybe? Congratulations. Donald Trump, we never moved the mark. We told you what was wrong from the beginning, and you shouldn't do that. And you did it anyways because you thought you could get away with it. You thought that a legal defense was, yeah, but what about that guy? Yeah, well, what about that one? If I create enough chaos, and it doesn't really matter what I do, it's what they do. Screw your American dream. Is the American dream how much you can lie to people? Let's not What? Have you ever, in the history of ever, Donald Trump, done anything for anyone but for yourself? Not in the esoteric, oh, I do this for my children, I do it for America. Why the fuck did you stage an assassination attempt? Go down and fist pump by pushing the Secret Service out of the way, you arrogant son of a bitch, so you could get a photo op with the flag up above your head. I call bullshit. I'm also calling bullshit that you're ever going to remove my kids. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Albany County. You will never find me. You will never find them, and we will live peacefully. I know the secrets of the fire swamp, and we can live there comfortably for quite some time. You will never rain your pain on me. And I will be a leader to help others find comfort, to find their way and become the best version of themselves as they watch their faith fall away because of the decades and centuries of lies. I'm going to help them find their way as the decades and now centuries of a government fall away into a bullshit primordial soup. I need you to pave my roads, Donnie. I need you to make sure that the fire department is up and running and they have the best equipment possible in case I ever need you, public servant. I don't need to hear about tariffs. I don't need to hear about protecting our borders. And by the way, if I'm in my bubble and I don't know of all the crime that's out there, okay, go help them, noble citizen. I'm busy raising 3 boys. I'm helping them become a man. And quit trying to undo everything that I've done by sack tickling anybody that you get near, because I'm teaching them the exact opposite. I'm teaching them how to be respectful. I'm teaching them how to crush on somebody. I'm teaching them how to become chivalrous and respectful all in the same breath. Please don't come along and undo my work. Don't undo my work by saying your children are actually illegals and they need to go. Well, we have the concept of a plan, and that includes you going somewhere else. If you want to help me know that when I go to sleep at night, if something was to happen tomorrow, somebody would have stood up for me. And by the way, these things that I pay money into, this insurance, this backup plan, these escrow things, whatever, just tell me that it's going to pay off someday. Just in case. The cologne is awesome. And by the way, I appreciate Taylor Swift for giving them $5 million, but what can you do? I don't have $5 million, but I got 3 weeks of vacation to burn. Go help them. I met a woman once. She worked in the accounting department. She was actually she ran one of the programs at a foster care unit, and she once a year would take a week off and she would go down to the Carolinas and help turtles hatch and get to the ocean safely. That's how she changed the world. She fell in love with turtles. It happens every year within a day of itself. It goes by the moons, goes by the tides. They know when it's going to happen. She takes off a week. She goes down there. She spends 2 full overnights out there on the beach, making sure that they don't get picked off in the morning. And they make it to the water. She's awesome. One of the first producers I had on a podcast. She came to me and she goes, B, I don't know if this is my long-term thing. And I said, it better not be. I only work with great people. And if you think great people are going to sit in a booth all day long, you're out of your mind. And she starts laughing. She goes, well, then you'll understand why it is that I've been accepted at one of the top schools to become an NP, nurse practitioner. And by the way, her resume is stunning. She was in Peace Corps for 4 years. She helped rebuild a war-torn village. She was a very white girl in a very not white country, gaining respect through hard work, eloquence, and resource management. She taught at a school. She taught them English. She helped them understand Swahili translations. And every year, for her birthday, she puts on her shoes. She builds a backpack. She chronicles her journey. She doesn't give location for safety reasons. But she says, I am walking from here to there for the next 4 days. And she takes back roads and she sees cows and horses. And she's sore at the end of the night. She stays at a hostel. She doesn't spend money, but she fundraises for the village that she helped for 4 years in the Peace Corps. Those are the people I surround myself with. And every year, I donate $111 to her. And every year she smiles and says, thanks, B. That's impact. That's somebody that moves the needles. That's somebody that's obsessed with the solution and not the problem. By the way, she went through the same stuff we just talked about. Santa Claus ain't her thing anymore. She found out the truth about that. Faith and religion became an esoteric. Oh, and by the way, she does free meditation sessions in the hospital for the students and anybody that might need them with somebody suffering. The girl's a healer. I'm proud to say she was a student, but she passed me a long time ago. Kelsey, I know you don't have time to watch this stuff, but if you ever do, these are the people I want on as guests. She portrayed herself as somebody very modest, and she wants to work with, I believe, cardiothoracic nurse practitioner. She's basically a step away from being a doctor, from being a cardiologist. But she wants to work with the person to get them through, to have them have healthy routines and rehab and preventatives and that sort of thing. She saw healthcare, looked it dead in the eye, and said, this is where I'm going to make my mark. I have another student who was a doctor, an MD. She worked with, I'll never forget it. Jamie's an amazing soul too. She's now down in Costa Rica. But what she was doing was they brought her in one day and they said, why did you release this person? And she says, well, they had their treatments or antibiotics, whatever. So I sent them home. And they said, I don't think you understand how we get paid around here. And I said to her, I can only imagine how they want to get paid. And she said, I'm just so disheartened by it. I got in trouble because I did the right thing medically. I got in trouble because I extended a heartfelt, like I cared about them. I followed up with them. And they said, you're not going to use hospital time to do that. And she goes, okay, so I'll use my time. I'll call them on break. And they said, you don't understand. You cannot represent the hospital and reach out to a patient that's been released to see how they're doing. Let the insurance company do that. She said, all due respect to the insurance company, they don't know what I know. I'm a true continuous care. And she quit. $10,000 in debt. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to go walk the world. And she struck a deal, and I love this. And again, I don't want to share too much, but she found a way to make money and give back. Hold on. She decided to go work on a reservation and provide medical care on a reservation for 6 months. That's how she got her debts back in line. That's how she got back into the working world. And that is why she is currently running retreats down in Costa Rica and living the life. How amazing is that? There's ways around this stuff. There's ways to make people still find their truth. Hi, Tara. I was happy to see that things are at least about the same. We're not lost. Right? So at 9:40, I'm going to be doing some readings over on the TikTok. I'm going to wrap up here. You're going to go over and dust off your TikTok. I'm going to do some reads. I'm going to do some tarot turns. Is this the last year of Santa? Doesn't matter. Who are you? What do you want to do in this life? You have overcome the lie before. Now, how comfortable are you with lying to yourself? Is it time for us to pull this apart and start to dive into things? By the way, they have a very unique offering for next year. It is a year-long immersive. It is 15 classes with extras all over the place, where you are going to peel back the layers of who you are and what you are meant to impact into the world. It is conscious becoming. Not becoming conscious, conscious becoming. Intentionally moving through your challenges and the work that you're meant to do to make the impact in which you are meant to make it in. I've designed this class based on the age of Aquarius, based on where we were at, and quite frankly, I've been getting ready for this my entire life. Shoot me a message, find it on my webpage. You should have questions. Happy to answer anything. But if you've been on this journey and it's never really made heads and tails and it's never really gelled, now is the time to find a peer group. Now is time to be with somebody that's kind of been there, done that. And I don't have all the answers, but I'm smart enough to say, let's try and figure it out. The people that have already signed up for this class are therapists that want to have a great impact. They are people that are interested in moving the needle, in being able to create a reality in which they thrive and they are immune from ridicule. Rita, you're in. And whatever you need, kid, I got you. And you're right, you're not lost. Oh, I love that. Not lost, just misplaced. I am going to be holding, I haven't quite figured it out. I will probably do it into January, where I'm going to have, kind of a Q&A type of thing. But you're going to have direct access to me, which I've worked very hard in kind of creating these layers and having, like over on TikTok, I have, Mod Katie, who manages all of that stuff, and she's great at it. Like, it's what she's meant to do. She's a superstar in that regard. And when you build this up and you decide like what you're meant to do, here's what I made. I made a huge mistake when I first started doing this work. Disastrously huge. Huge. But it was what I knew. I tried to make the spiritual world corporate. And I tried to create a training program that would teach everybody how to be a medium and do platform arts. And here's how you present it. Every single person failed it in my book. But I was trying to teach fish how to climb trees. That's a thing. And then I started to realize that when I did individualized things and working with people, it wasn't about you becoming the great medium. It was about you becoming the greatest you. And maybe it didn't have anything to do with it's in the backdrop, it's in the operating system of spiritual awakening. But maybe it was to help you be the best teacher, counselor, therapist, nurse, whatever. I love that you guys are jumping on my website right now. tbrandonruss.com. Sign up for it. Send me a message through it. It sometimes takes me a day to get back to you just because I get overwhelmed, but I always have office times. But I really have given this a lot of thought since the election on how I can make the greatest impact. Debbie, we should talk. I'm going to create an army. And not an army that takes up in a fight that is tangible even. I am going to do the same courtesy that I'm doing for my kids. Protect you while you figure it out. Guide you when you make mistakes. And become your biggest fucking cheerleader, because that is what this life is actually about. I made mistakes because I didn't have my shit together. I made mistakes because I didn't have solid footing. I made misconceptions. I made assumptions. I let the wrong people in. And I thought I was helping them. And realized when you open up your email one day that some of the people that you trusted the most were staging a coup to take your name and get you out of a business that you were meant to be in. They attacked my soul path, just not my business. How's that working out for you, kids? I don't mean to get all musical, but I'm still standing. And I'm doing pretty good. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you've learned from your mistakes. I'm sure as hell not going to clean up for them anymore. So if you're looking to step forward, if you're really looking to put that together, send me a message. If you want to just sign up for it, great, but I'm going to put a hold on it until we talk and make sure it's the right spot for you. If you need a payment plan, send me a message. Right? Send me a message. We're going to build a relationship. It's going to be clean, it's going to be healthy, and it's going to be encouraging on both sides of it. I'm creating that feel-good stuff that we've been... Anyone? There we go. I'm okay with losing subs. You think that's why I do this? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Wrong again. Wrong again. Do you think that this is why I use this platform? Listen, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. And by the way, thank you for supporting this. You want to up the ante? Maybe this isn't the time for that class, but you want to support this? Become a member. My subs went down. My subscribers went up. My supporters, my channel supporters, went through the roof. You want to talk about stats? You want to talk about positions there, Bucky? Such an asshole. Just low vibe leaving. Well, whatever. And again, it's not about the numbers. It's about the intention. And when you're ready, here we go. All right, guys, I am going to start being true to my shuffle up and heels on Tuesday. I'm going to start doing an energy report, and I'm going to start having very consistent schedules out there. And by the way, who the fuck are you? Telling me how to do hello, Age of Aquarius. Take care of your own stuff. I'm taking care of mine. You take care of yours. In that class, it's 15 meetings a year. Every 3 weeks or so, give or take. Take a little time off in the summer. We have 2 retreats. The price does not include the retreat, so it's kind of like if you can go. And by the way, you'll all be invited to the retreat, but they'll get first dibs, people involved with the program. We're going to be doing one up in the Adirondacks, and we're going to be doing one. Phoenix, thanks for joining in. Thank you, Phoenix Night Rose. And then we're going to be doing another one to the American Southwest. Working on details, going to have that by beginning of January. Contracts need to be signed. Got to work out a Mercury retrograde. You guys get it. But it's go time, guys. It's go time for me. And by the way, once upon a time, comments like you saw would have crumbled me. Because I was like, well, if you don't have numbers, it's not about the numbers. There is only one number in this work, and it is one. It is sovereignty. Everything else is icing. And thank you for being a part of it. Right? Is a valuable lesson on tariffs. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Great to see you. Bueller. VOO space DOO. Voodoo Economics. My God, where's Ben Stein when you need him? Which, by the way, Ben Stein's money, also noteworthy. One of the greatest shows. Thank you guys so much. Signing out. Heart taps all around the world. I'll see you guys next time. Keep going. See you tomorrow night with Psychic Sleuth. Can't wait to see where this one's going to take us. All right, guys. Keep going.